What's crappin' everybody? My name's Tommy. This is my channel. You're here for a deck tech budget of Meren. This is going to be a 2021 update. Lots of new stuff has come out that really is helpful for Meren. A lot of good stack outlets, things like that. If you played in the arena, you'll know what I'm talking about. Preparing for this this deck tech, I went through a bunch of other people's deck techs all over YouTube. I also just searched, and there were like 9,000 listings for CEDH or EDH versions of Meren. And I went through a bunch of those, created deck lists or compiled deck lists for a playlist on YouTube that I've also linked down below.
God damn! Thanks, Noob. This guy gets it.
The two dual modal cards that I've added this year are Melira Rebirth and Recovery. They again dual face, so they come into play tapped land. Again, helps the mana base. I think our mana curve here is 2.7, 2.6, which isn't too bad. But also they have good desirable effects that are in Meren. For 1 black instant, pay 2 life, your creature gets to die and come back into play immediately. So if you try to target your removal on Meren or anything else, you get it back immediately for 1 mana. Very easy, very nice gotcha card. Recovery is a good regrowth effect, but also stapled onto a land, so it helps with the mana on the early game, or if you draw it late, it's very usable. Another great addition to the deck this year is Call of the Death Dweller. For 3 mana sorcery, return up to 2 target creatures with total preferred mana cost of 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. They each get a Death Touch and a Menace counter on them. That's irrelevant. You get up to 2 creatures from your graveyard into play from the graveyard. And then with this deck, mostly curves out with creatures that are under 3 mana. You get any creature you want, or 2 of the smaller ones. Most of our combo pieces are 1 to, but that says any creature, which is helpful. We have probably 7 or 8 creatures that cost more than 3 in our deck. But Call of the Death Dweller doesn't have sacrifice trigger, so post a board wipe, be able to play that and get 2 creatures back. Again, very useful in niche situations, as well as just being able to discard cards and not worry about it, and have more ways to get things back out of the graveyard and recur them.
I'm just watching.
Okay, also we have a new edition of Yawgmoth, Thran Physician. I love getting infinite combos. He is in quite a few decks. Yawgmoth is in quite a few decks that I've searched for. Very useful if you take your time and look for him. I got him off of TCG Player for like $9. I've seen used copies or foreign copies, such as that, for also $8 or $9 on eBay. Just take your time and wait for it. If you want the card, you want to be on a budget, a little bit more time is all you really need. Sorry, what's up? Oh, okay.
Trick. I don't do magic, Morty. I do science. One takes brains, the other takes dark eyeliner.
One of the brand newest additions is Kadama of the East Tree. That came out of Commander Legends. We pulled it in a box. Very useful. It doesn't have any real combo potential in the deck, but a lot of back-breaking synergies. You have lots of ways to tutor out creatures, or return them from the graveyard into play, or to birthing pot into things, Defense of the Heart, Pattern of Rebirth, things like that. Any major effect with him in play, you just get to rapidly play things out of your hand. You have multiple cantrips and draw triggers off of like Midnight Reaper, things like that. So you have a handful of cards. And whenever you play something, it just doubles up. That's just bananas. I'll show the synergies a little bit later.
But they're not the same color.
Oh, I thought they were. Here.
That's a little bit brighter.
Oh, I see. Here, give me.
Did you see that? Because I was looking for it.
If you play Magic the Gathering Arena very much, then you know about Korvold and the sacrifice decks that have been running rampant for the last couple of months, over the last season. Bolt Citadel with an aristocrat style deck has been pretty amazing. A lot of good cantrips and sack triggers. You just play off the top of your deck pretty easily. We have lots of land filtering, able to thin your deck out and have a lot of shuffle effects when needed. If you have multiple lands on top of your deck, to shuffle them away to keep finding active targets. And if you have enough life or early enough in the game and you ramp up your Bolt Citadel, you can just end the game out of nowhere. A budget option for Eternal Witness, one of my favorite cards. Things that if you have it, you probably already do have it, but if you don't, Skullwinder is not bad. It's a 3 mana 1/3 Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand and choose target opponent. That player returns a card of their choice to their graveyard to their hand as well. Again, always trying to help the worst player at the table. That way people can maybe get gang up on that person instead. It helps get the heat off of you for a couple of turns.
Master Robin! Oh! You lost your arms in battle. Oh, how terrible. But you grew some nice boobs.
Here's a quick run through of our 1-drop creatures. We have 3 mana dorks. Young Wolf is very good with Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, being able to have infinite combos and synergies there. Cosmic Caterpillar, able to disenchant some things. There's an Explorer, one of my favorite cards from Legacy. Able to sacrifice that and give everybody at the table 2 basic lands untapped. Again, you have many sack outlets, and you ramping because you have infinite combos. If they're not prepared yet, you can actually just win before they have a chance to respond. Also, Spore Frog with Meren is a Renown combo. Again, you get to sack outlet each turn. It comes back into play. You get to fog each of your turns. I'm sorry, one time per revolution, for evolution. Diligent Farmhand. 1 mana for 1/1. You can sacrifice to go for a basic land. Again, ramp. 1 mana, turn 1, ramp. Lots of easy ways. Sack triggers. Get things back with Meren. Very creature-centric, very budget-centric. Viscera Seer. Tons of infinite combos. It's always in Meren. On our 2 mana slot, we have our 2 main aristocrats, Blood Artist and Zulaport. Then we have Belby Corrupted Overseer. Observer, black and a green for a 2/2, legendary creature, zombie elf. At the beginning of each player's post-combat main phase, that player adds 2 generic mana for each of your opponents who lost life this turn. So if on your turn, first main phase or attack phase, whatever, if each of your opponents loses 1 life, so you're able to get 1 trigger out of one of your aristocrats, that's probably 3 opponents, which gives you 6 generic mana on your second main phase. 6 generic mana early in the game, as early as turn 3, is pretty bonkers and helps accelerate the deck. Other players, again, can take advantage of this, but very rarely you're going to have someone that's more aggressive than you or prepared for that as early as you. So at our 2-drop slot, we have 4 creatures that get to go for basic lands. 2 of them have their own sacrifice abilities, so they don't need any other help. The 2 that need help are Primal Druid and Verdant Emissary. But still, again, you have plenty of sack outlets and ways to kill creatures, so getting basic lands and ramping with them is pretty easily. Also, they're very good shuffle effects later in the game. For Bolts of Citadel, Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons is kind of win more. We have quite a few ways to get -1/-1 counters, normally on our own creatures that have persist, like Puppeteer Clique or Lesser Manticore. And when they come into play with a -1/-1 counter, you get a snake. So if you have any of your infinite loops, or if you have multiple synergies with like yawgmoth and things like that, yawgmoth also doles out -1/-1 counters, and then Proliferate will proliferate all of the counters. So you have multiple creatures with 1/1 counters. You can make a lot of snakes with Hapatra. Melira is, of course, an infinite combo with Lesser Manticore and Puppeteer Clique. Your creatures cannot have -1/-1 counters put on them. So when it dies, it has the -1/-1 trigger, the persist trigger, go on the stack. It comes back into play. The -1/-1 tries to be put onto it, and it cannot because of Melira. So then you get to repeat that infinite times with any of your sack out.
Welcome to Germany. Auf Wiedersehen, asshole.
Viridian Zealot, last on the 2-drop slot. Again, a disenchant on a stick. They recur with Meren and other of our creature recursion spells. So having multiple CC cost creatures that are able to be found with tutors or potted into that actually are able to interact with other players of the game is very useful. In our 3 mana creature slot, we have Geralf's Messenger, has Undying. Whenever it would die, it comes back into play with a +1/+1 counter on it. This is useful in unison with Yawgmoth and Physician, because they can put -1/-1 counters on things, which will negate the +1/+1 counter. So you get to do that infinite times over and over. And he has come into play trigger. This is when he comes into play. Target opponent loses 2 life. So if you have an infinite loop with Yawgmoth, you better bring it back infinite times and drain everybody at the table. Also, aristocrats, we have Araya. When Araya or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And you can tap, sacrifice a black creature to draw a card. Again, a very weak sacrifice effect, but just having another good aristocrat in the deck at a 3 mana slot is important. So we can pod into things if we have a lot of 2-drops, which we do. 3 mana Woe Strider, very good on Arena if you've been playing at all. Escape is another good way to be able to cast it out of the graveyard. We have a lot of ramp, get all our lands in play. So with Woe Strider, even if it gets killed early, we'll be able to recur it with its own inherent ability, which is amazing, being one of our 2 or 3 key pieces to actually go infinite. We need a sack outlet. It's a 3 mana 3/2. It comes to play, you get a 0/1 goat token. You can sacrifice any other creature to scry 1, and again, scrying is also good. It also combos well, synergizes well with Bolts of Citadel. So if you're at the top card of your deck is a land, you can sacrifice a creature, scry that land to the bottom, and keep going with Citadel. Skullwinder, covered that. It's not bad. It's a if you have Eternal Witness, play Eternal Witness, or play both. Both is better. Pawn of Ulamog, 3 mana 2/2. Whenever Pawn of Ulamog or another non-token creature you control dies, you may put a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn, and you can sacrifice that for colorless mana. So any of your infinite sack loops will also now net you infinite 0/1s and or infinite colorless mana. Reclamation Sage, 2 and a green, 3 mana for a 2/1, comes into play to an artifact or enchantment. So that means we have a disenchant on a stick at 1, 2, and 3 mana. Again, up the chain, you always want to have availability wherever you are in the game, or whatever's available to you in the game. Midnight Reaper and Grim Haruspex, basically the same card. Whenever one of your creatures, non-token creatures, dies, you get to draw a card. Midnight Reaper deals damage to you, which sucks. Grim Haruspex does not. But either way, redundancy is best. You need multiple ways to draw cards to actually dig through your deck and find the combo pieces. Fleshbag Marauder and Playcrafter are good sack effects. 3 mana for a 3/1, 3 mana for a 3/2. When Fleshbag Marauder comes into play, each player sacrifices a creature that to you too. You have lots of things that you want to die. This helps because once they die, they can be recurred back. Also, it helps with Meren counters. Plaguecrafter. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. This way, at least you're getting some kind of value from everybody in play. If it's not a creature-based deck, if it is a Super Friends deck, you have some kind of way to do this. And you do have ways to do this multiple times a turn, so you're able to like get 2, 3, 4 permanents out of the board on a turn. Fierce Empath, 3 mana 1/1, comes into play. Search your deck for a creature that costs 6 or greater. We have exactly 2 targets, which is Kodama of the East Tree and Protean Hulk. Protean Hulk, if it gets into play, it's an I win card immediately. There are multiple ways to sacrifice Protean Hulk and win on the spot. Kodama of the East Tree, if your budget allows for it, Fierce Empath is also good. Fierce Empath is also good to go and find Machias the Unhallowed. This is a Chinese version. As you can tell, it's very busted up. Got it on eBay for like $8 or $9. I think I have it listed on the notes. It may pop up here above me or something. But anyway, $8 or $9 versus $30. So again, on a budget, take your time, take what you can get. If your friends don't want you to play proxies, they want you to play real cards, it's ugly, but it works. And a lot more combos, and I'll cover that also later.
Help me, I'm poor.
No.
Last of our 3 drops, Color of the Claw, 3 mana 2/2. You can play it as an instant. This is before they really had flash mechanics, so you can play it as an instant. When it comes into play, you may put a 2/2 green bear creature token into play for each non-token creature that went to the graveyard this turn. So if you have a turn where you're able to sacrifice lots and lots of creatures to draw cards or for other value, other reasons, if you're sacrificing things for Altar of Dementia to mill cards off your deck, looking for other pieces that you can recur later. Either way, lots of sacrifice triggers, Color of the Claw, bunch more tokens, helps with that. Or if somebody else is going to play a board sweeper, keep up some mana, play Color of the Claw, get a bunch of 2 tokens, just go aggro on people, also works. All right. Down into my tummy. Ooh. Yawgmoth Thran Physician, we'll cover that during the combo pieces later. Pitiless Plunderer, 4 mana for a 1/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, token, non-token, either way, any other creature dies, you get a treasure token. You can sacrifice the treasure token for any colored mana. Lots of infinite loops, lots of just synergistic loops where you get to have 5, 6, 7 sacks in a turn. That kind of free mana can be very explosive in a turn. Smothering Abomination, it's our 3rd redundant piece for whenever a creature dies or is sacrificed actually. You get to draw a card. 4 mana, so again, you can pot into it if it's off of the 3-drop. Just having different things at different casting costs is, again, super, super important. Last on the 4-drop slot is Sabra, Queen of the Golgari, 4 mana for a 2/2. Whenever you sacrifice a black creature, you may pay 2 life. If you do, each other player sacrifices a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a green creature, you may gain 2 life. With Yawgmoth and Yawgmoth, we'll be able to gain infinite life. With Yawgmoth and Geralf's Messenger, we can drain infinite life and make everyone sacrifice all of the creatures in play. Also with Melira and Puppeteer Clique, it's also a black creature with infinite sack outlet, and you're able to drain everybody's creatures that way as well. Sabra is also pretty weak when it comes to go wide strategies or token-based strategies. Not very useful, not my favorite card. All right, we're getting narrower, down to 5 drops. We have Puppeteer Clique, 5 mana, 3/2 flying. When it enters the battlefield, put target creature card from an opponent's graveyard into the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. At the beginning of your next end step, exile it. And then persist when it dies and comes back into play with a -1/-1 counter. So again, we'll go back over to Melira. With Melira, he can't have -1/-1s put onto him. So we have a second. If we have a sacrifice outlet like Altar of Dementia, I sacrifice Puppeteer Clique. I get to mill 3 cards off of either my library or somebody else's. If I choose their library, I can either just use these 3 cards as an infinite mill outlet, because he comes back into play with a -1/-1, which can't be there, so it's negated. So I get to sacrifice him infinite times to altar, mill everybody out. If they have ways to stop you from milling them out, whether it's an Eldrazi or some other loop, then where it comes into play, you get to take a creature out of their graveyard and put it into play for yourself. And again, because they haven't actually drawn, they don't lose until their turn during the draw phase when they try and draw a card and they can't. So you can use this to mill everybody out who can be milled out, or get a couple of mills before you hit their Eldrazi. And then whatever creatures they have in their graveyard, you take all of those. They all have haste, and you can just aggro everybody out of the game that way.
New high score!
What does high score mean? New high score, is that bad? What does that mean?
Should I break it?
Our other 5-drop is Shriekmaw. 5 mana for a 3/2 Fear. Enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. Evoke for 2 mana, so for 2 mana you can cast it, and then it dies immediately, which is also pretty useful. I normally just play it for 2 mana to kill other mana dorks, things like that are in play. But also at a 5 mana slot, we don't have many things that high on the curve, so it is an intermediary getting to your 6-drop, which is Kodama the East Tree, or your 7-drop Protean Hulk. And that's again for Birthing Pod, but necessary. All right, top of the curve, 6-drop, 7-drop, one of each. Kodama, trying it out. I love it a lot so much. A lot of good synergy. Protean Hulk, 7 mana for a 6/6. When he dies, search your library for any number of creature cards to a mana cost of 6 or less. Put them into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Now let's see what we can get with Protean Hulk when he dies. All right, so Protean Hulk. This really shows where you need to have an intimate knowledge of your deck, all the ins and outs. This is very much like a pod deck of modern of old. When you sacrifice Protean Hulk, normally you'd be going for 3 exact cards, which is one of these 2 Blood Artists, Lesser Manticore and Melira. These 3 together with any sack outlet is an auto win. Back to redundancy, and again, knowing your deck. Whatever you have in play, you get 6 casting costs to find any pieces you're missing. So whatever piece you have in play or have access to in the graveyard or in your hand, you need to find all the other pieces that are available. So let's say if you have Melira already in play, you can go for Puppeteer Clique and Viscera Seer and have that infinite sack loop there, scry off the top of your deck, steal other creatures and attack people. Or if you need infinite mana, and you already have, let's say, Melira and Manticore in play, you get to go for maybe a Pitiless Plunderer with his friends, or Pawn of Ulamog, and you get a bunch of tokens, treasures for infinite mana. And if you have one of those, if you have Pitiless Plunderer in play with Grim Haruspex, you're able to sacrifice creatures through one of the loops. You're able to draw a bunch of cards, and with Plunderer, be able to play pretty much all the cards you draw because the cast.
Cover, sweetheart. What was that? It was bad. It had nothing, no fire, no energy, no nothing. You know I have a shoulder right here, you know? And it must pop, pop, pop.
Getting away from Melira, we also have the infinite loop with Yawgmoth, Messenger, and Yawgmoth. With just these 3 cards, you have, again, another combo. So again, that's 5 mana. If you have Protean Hulk, you can just get these 2 cards plus whatever you fancy. Yawgmoth, 4 mana for a 2/4, protection from humans, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. A lot of words on one thing. You can put the -1/-1 counter on somebody else's creature or on your creature. If you want to put it on your creature, that's where the Undying comes into play. Because with just Yawgmoth, I can sacrifice him to Yawgmoth, put a -1/-1 counter on some other creature. I do need a valid target for that. Could be mine or somebody else's. I get to draw a card. Yawgmoth comes back into play with a +1/+1 counter on him. If I have a second creature, doesn't matter what it is, I can sacrifice that creature and put the -1/-1 counter onto Yawgmoth, taking away his +1/+1 counter. And because that's been taken off, whatever I sacrificed that died, I can now use Yawgmoth once again and cycle it back with a +1/+1 counter. Hopefully I'll be drawing cards that I'll be able to use for this. Also, if you have Pawn of Ulamog in play, you get 0/1 tokens that you can also sacrifice or put -1/-1 counters onto. So this will also be another pseudo-infinite combo that synergizes well to dig through your deck and draw a bunch of cards. The dream is that you have all 3, Yawgmoth, Yawgmoth, and Messenger. And with the 3 of these, you can trade off the Undying triggers. So I get to sacrifice Yawgmoth, put a -1/-1 counter on Geralf's Messenger. Yawgmoth dies, comes back into play, and then I get to draw my card. I get my 1/1 counter on Yawgmoth. I then sacrifice Geralf's Messenger to take the -1/-1 counter and put it on Yawgmoth to get rid of the +1/+1 counter. He dies, comes back and plays tapped. Target player loses 2 life, which again is going to help me with the me losing a life. Also, with all your aristocrats, you can pretty much negate the Yawgmoth loss of life by gaining life from all of your 3 aristocrats that you have. Or from Sabra if you have her, with different things with Yawgmoth and stuff. So between Messenger and Yawgmoth, you can interchangeably move them back and forth, getting rid of the +1/+1 counters on them so they can keep coming back with an infinite sack outlet, drawing all your cards. And then again, with Plunderer or Pawn, make infinite mana, cast a bunch of stuff. Also, again, if you have the budget for it, if you already have the card, or if you're able to find a good deal like I did for a Machias the Unhallowed, he gives all of your creatures Undying, so whenever any of them die, they come back into play with a +1/+1 counter if they didn't already have one on them. So with that and Yawgmoth, any 2 creatures is an infinite loop, or with him and like Triskelion, really old known combo. Triskelion comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. You remove the 3 counters to do 3 damage. He now has 0 counters on him. He dies. Machias brings him back with a +1/+1 counter, so then he has his 3 plus that one, which is 4. You remove all 4, deal 4 damage. He dies. He comes back.
Why wouldn't you cover that up?
A warrior has nothing to be ashamed of.
How about you do?
All right, onto our 1-drop spells for the deck. We have Caravan Vigil. Search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. Morbid, if a creature died this turn, you get to search your deck for a land and put it right into play. Untapped, very helpful. A lot of sack triggers, works really good. Also pretty interchangeable if you want to run Traverse the Ulvenwald. Not a bad card. I just didn't put it in this deck. Unearth, in this deck is basically a reanimate. Again, if you have reanimate, also play reanimate. It's very good. Most of our creatures that we play are 3 mana or less. So returning creature card to 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, very useful. Or cycling for 2. Scheming Symmetry, tutors, casting cost as low as possible. Also helping out, team dynamics, playing with somebody else at the table, helping somebody else out. Keeping the heat off of you. If you give somebody else a tutor effect, they may help them be targeted versus just you. It gives the table more things to think about.
Shall we play a game?
1 mana sorcery. Choose 2 players. Each of them search their library for a card. Puts that on top of their deck. Also, you have Altar of Dementia. You can then tutor for it and mill it off. Melira Rebirth. Very good card. We covered it earlier. If you have a creature in play and someone tries to kill it, you get to use this in response. And when it dies, it comes back into play. Skull Clamp, always good. You have lots of those 1/1 snakes from Hapatra to put it on. Also, if you put Skull Clamp on any of your tokens from Pot of Ulamog, very useful there. All your creatures very good. Before you kill them, sack them, pot them. Drawing 2. Lots of ways to abuse Skull Clamp in this deck. Soul Ring. This is Commander. Get with it. 2 mana slot. Very boring. 2 mana. Rampant Growth and Farseek, good. You can run the 3 visits, I think, or 3 wishes. The other 2 mana ram spell if you want. It went up like $4 or $5, so I pulled it out of the deck. Once Upon a Time, Singleton Commander, not the best tutor, but usable. You're looking for something, help shuffle off the top of your deck. Again, for both Citadel, Altar of Dementia, all the combos. Abrupt Decay can't be countered, kills things 3 or less. Most of the graveyard hate you're going to be running against is going to cost 3 or less, so helpful, and it can't be really stopped other than redirected. Not many people know how to do that, though, so don't worry about it unless you're in CDH. If you are, you're not playing this deck. All right, the 3 mana spell slot. We have Court of Calling, instant speed tutor with Convoke. Get a creature out of your deck, put it in play with casting cost of X, very useful. Eldritch Evolution, it's a sack trigger, gets a creature out of your deck that costs X is 2 plus sacrifice creature for the mana cost. You can go up the chain quite a bit there. Also, Birthing Pod, similar effect, but a singleton. Very good. Buried Alive, get the deck for any 3 creatures you want. Put them all in your graveyard. Victimized, Call the Death Dweller, ways to reanimate them. Also, if you have plenty of counters on Meren already, Meren will bring them back if you put them in the graveyard with Buried Alive. Again, as long as they're there and you have enough counters to put them in play, or just return them to your hand if you need them there. Moving on, Beast Within, 3 mana instant, destroy target permanent. Anything, lands, planeswalkers, kill anything, they get a 3/3 token. Fair trade. Instant speed, not much better on a budget. Balagate Recovery, get any card out of your graveyard back into your hand, or doubles as a non-basic come to play tap land. Again, good stuff. 4 mana slot. Defense of the Heart, quite amazing. I'm glad it got reprinted. 4 mana for an enchantment during your upkeep. If one of your opponents has 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for up to 2 creature cards and put them into play. Shuffle your library. So if on your upkeep you have defense in play and anybody else has 3 or more creatures, you get to sacrifice this, get any 2 creatures out of your entire deck, put them in play. With what you already have in play or in your hand, that could just be a win on the spot. If you already have a sacrifice outlet, then you can just go for Protean Hulk, sacrifice it, and win immediately. I already went through the combos, use those. Birthing Pod, again, wait for it. It'll come down on price. Look for used models. This is a cut up, busted one. It's all folded and bent and stuff. Again, not a big deal. I'm not worried about it. This is a budget deck. It doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it plays well. Also, again, just get proxies. Hong Kong has a lot of great proxies. Use those. If your friends don't want you to play proxies, if they want to be able to buy you out of the game, that's bad on them.
You tamed my monster.
Okay, just...
How was that, by the way?
Are you done?
I hadn't showered that day, and I fight crime in a rubber suit. Really seals in the flavor.
Pattern of Rebirth used to be a big staple in Big Green back in the day. 4 mana enchant creature. When the enchanted creature dies, go through for any creature you want, put it in play. If you're going for Protean Hulk, or yawgmoth, or Melira. Those are all normally 1-card wins if you have the other pieces of the combos. Getting any creature directly into play is very, very useful. Last 3 cards. Bolus of Citadel, 1-card combo, very good. Wins the game on the spot a lot of the time. Vraska, this got some variants, 4 mana Planeswalker. Her +2, sacrifice another permanent. If you do, you gain a life and draw 1 card. It helps some of the stalemate games, and they're kind of like in the middle. Her -3 is destroy target non-land permanent with covered mana cost 3 or less. Same thing as Abrupt Decay. It kills things that are relevant to you. Most Grave Hate and stuff is casting cost 3 or less. Enchantments, artifacts, things of that nature. Useful. -9, don't worry about it. If you're ultimating Planeswalkers, you probably won the game. Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, 3 mana Planeswalker. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash. Being able to play a black-green deck as though it's a blue deck and just pass all your mana up and do all of your casting of your creatures on somebody else's turn at the end of the last player's turn before you get to untap. Very useful. No overcommitting the board, no walking into sweepers, things like that. So being able to play things that flash is the only reason this is in here. The other things are just perks. The +1 until your next turn, target creature gets Vigilance and Reach. Sure, I guess. Not many aggro decks, but I guess even to be able to block something to make sure it dies, it's also useful. -2, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Exile one of them face down. The rest of the bottom of your library. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it if it's a creature card. So again, top 3 cards. Exile one of them. If it's a creature, you can cast it. So these are our non-basic lands. We have 7 of them that come into play tapped, which is very terrible, but this is a budget. We want to have our mana. If you want to be a little bit more risky, run more basics. Don't run the tap lands, but be able to falter off of your double doubles or triple colored mana bases. You have lots of triples in here, which is rough. Otherwise, we do also have 3 lands that make colorless only. Ghost Quarter, Field of Ruin. Again, good shuffle effects to get things off the top of your deck. For Bolts of Citadel, you got to kill things like Gaia's Cradle from the people that aren't playing on a budget. Grim Backwoods, 4 mana tap, sacrifice a creature, draw a card. Again, sack trigger, draw triggers, good stuff. Mana Fixing generic. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is a budget mana base. These are 20 basic lands. Bulk of our deck is basics. A lot of our creatures search out for basic lands, very helpful. Right now, with Kaldheim coming out, you should probably go get all snow lands and play all snow in everything always. Also, if you have all snow lands, you can play Dead of Winter. 3 mana sorcery, all non-snow creatures get -X/-X at the end of turn, where X is the number of snow permanents you control. Snow lands are snow permanents. Good 3 mana sweeper, also on a budget. Get it before the price goes up. If it hasn't already, I'm sorry. All right, and here's the full mana base breakdown. Kind of color, look at all the pips. Early on, you need a lot more green. As it gets later into the 3-drop slot, you have a lot more triple black for the pips there. So again, searching for lands early, go green first, then black later. Much more relevant. We have 15 1-drop cards. We have 18 2-drop cards, 20 3-drop cards, and they drops from 20 3-drops down to only 8 4-drops. All right, time for the budget talk. When building on the budget, take your time, be patient. If money is backbreaking, if you're young, if you don't have a full-time job, COVID sucks, everyone lost their jobs, it's a pretty terrible time. Use proxies, use pieces of paper, use Xerox stuff, find a good play group, find some good friends, play the game and have fun. But if you want people that are a purist, that you want to have the real cards, the real tangible things, you don't want a Xerox copy or you don't want to buy from Hong Kong, budget's where it's at. And some of these cards you can get for half price, quarter price if you look around. TCG Player, eBay, Amazon, lots of stuff. Even the Facebook chat groups or the Craigslist type stuff normally has Magic cards available in the area. Be careful, you might get swindled. The proxies are getting very, very good. If you know what you're looking for, you may buy a card that isn't real. At the time that I built this deck, it was valued at $87, $88. It had a high point of like 160, 180. It may have gone up in the last 2 weeks. I had this price out on December 30th, 2020. And Kaldheim is now being spoiled and stuff. So prices may be going up or down through that. All right. Thank you, everybody. I doubt you got through the entire thing. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate your time and your effort. Have a nice day. Be safe out there.